Welcome back to the Hip Hop Social Worker Podcast. I'm your host, Christopher Scott, and today I have a social worker, from the East Coast, connected on Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. My man Gary Trey Taylor. You LCSW yet?
Not yet, man. Not yet.
So he's on his way. He on his way. So go ahead and let him introduce himself so he can, let us know all the ill stuff he be doing out here.
Yes, sir. Chris, man, I appreciate you, man. Like I said, my name is Gary Trey Taylor. You call me Trey for the podcast, man. Social master's level social worker here out in Fredericksburg, Virginia. And just big mental health advocate, big advocate around the mental health of African Americans, especially Black men. I've run a Black men's monthly meeting right now here in Fredericksburg, Virginia, working with men exclusively to deal with their life issues and their stress issues, man. And we'll get into that and talk about that more. But been in the field as a social worker, about 5 years now. Been in the field of mental health for 9-10 years at this current moment. So excited to be on here, man, with you, Chris, man, the Hip Hop Social Work Podcast. You are the guy and the go-to guy to interview all the social workers. So glad to be here, man.
Like to hear that. We all got a story to tell, so I'm just trying to bring everybody to the forefront.
Yes, sir.
So a little bit about your background. So how did you get into mental health work?
Ironically, man, I was in school at VCU at Virginia Commonwealth University, and I was a business major and a psychology minor, and just was failing business classes, man. I wanted to own my own business, but the classes wasn't it for me, and I was doing better in my psych classes than I was in my business classes. And so I ended up switching majors to psychology. And I had a homegirl who's a psychologist. She talked me into it, and she was telling me about how much we needed more men in the field, especially Black men. And that's how I got involved in it. Graduated, knew I couldn't, do too much with that bachelor's degree. Ended up working in a psychiatric facility here in my hometown here for 2 years, and then ended up going to the social work field, going to get my master's in 2015. 2012, a year after I graduated with a psychology degree.
Yeah.
And just working in that psychiatric facility, inpatient, man, I think we talked about it one time before. Working in inpatient is different, and it exposes you to everything mental health from every end of the spectrum, from psychiatric illnesses, diagnoses, from, seeing somebody come in on the first day of the month, maybe psychotic, and then clearing up in the 28th day of the month, So I saw so much, and I really gained a passion around mental health as a result of being from that psychiatric inpatient for that 2 years. And that's just been fuel to my fire ever since.
Yeah. Your path sounds like a lot like mine. I started out as a business major. The classes it was too hard for me to get a C. I was like, man, I am struggling I'm climbing up a hill just to get a C. Right. It shouldn't be like this. I'm gonna be a business major, So I talked to my mom, and I became a social. I was doing better in my social classes, than I was in my business classes. So I became a major in social sciences.
Oh, okay. Yeah, see, I got different over there than what we had. So, I think we got social science here, but they just did psych, and it was in the humanities. Yeah, so, yeah.
I really never got into psych. Psych always kind of scared me, even though I'm a therapist. But my therapist approach is from community aspect. How has your life affected your mental health, as far as you've been diagnosed with this. Let's see how we can.
Yeah.
Oh.
And see, psych has always intrigued me. I always ask why we behave the way we behave. But now, even the more I read through my books, because social work and psych all tied together, the principles and stuff like that, just how you approach it.
Mm-hmm.
You really, really understand. You really start to understand, because I knew with psych, I didn't want to be bound by psychiatric principles. That's why I went to social work. Okay. That's the reason why, because I was learning to be a little bit more open. And now, even going through my social work books as I'm studying for this LCSW exam, I'm really realizing that these models, these therapeutic approaches, they're great in theory, you
Yeah.
know, but the real world is the real world. And so you have
Mhm.
to utilize that as a framework to get to the end result. And that end result doesn't look like a textbook.
Yeah, definitely not, because there's too many factors.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
there's too many factors. I mean, I wish it was cut and dry. Like, you sit in these trainings and they tell you, oh, if you do X, Y, Z,
Right.
boom. You know what I'm saying? You
Yeah.
got it.
Get the
But it's
result. Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Nah, it don't work like that, you know, especially if you forgot about these variables here, you know.
you know
So
what I'm saying? So, so now, you got your master's in social work. Like, is your role similar, or like, are you in therapy? Are you in social work? Like, like, are you doing like more like community stuff, or like, what's your role with your organization, or with your stuff now?
so right now, man, it's kind of twofold. 9 to 5 work. I'm a kind of like a care coordinator at a MAT treatment substance abuse program in
Okay.
Richmond, with a major health system down there. And so I work with individuals with substance abuse and just kind of helping them with resources, helping them get into treatment programs, and stuff like that. So more of like a care manager, case manager role.
Mhm.
Um, and then on 5 to 9, with the brand and the business, that's more so kind of more community related. Where it's the Goodfellas Project, doing the monthly meetings with Black men on how to, manage their life stress and issues. Also the consulting side through my business, which I'm trying to get off the ground a little bit more. Whereas trying to work with businesses, agencies, any small businesses, anybody that come in there and help them with their staff's mental well-being, and trying to help them establish good, healthy policies in place for good mental health in the workspace. And
Mhm.
so, and then, just the little creative projects along the lines of trying to just create a group, making sure that, people have something to look at that's not the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's 9 to 5 is a little bit more formal, but the 5 to 9 is like a little bit more abstract and kind of, you
Yeah.
know, out there. So
Oh, I could definitely feel you on the, the abstract, personal business stuff. There was I actually know a guy who has a consulting firm, just like how you explain, like you try to go in and try to help staffing with,
yeah.
try to help people like how their staff morale and things like that. And I was like, man, that's a
Uh-huh.
good, yeah, I like that. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. I was just trying to find something, man, that's just, because, you think about, some people don't want to pay that money to go see a therapist. And believe me, I do want to eventually get to the point of being a therapist again, because I was a crisis therapist
ooh,
prior.
okay,
And so, but I do want my private practice. I do want to do therapy. But this piece right here, if I can go into the businesses and talk to them and have them pour into the employees,
yeah,
that may help ease okay, well, maybe I do need to go ahead and see somebody,
hmm,
eventually, so that's my goal with that.
yeah, and and yeah, and so you were a crisis therapist.
Yeah.
How was that?
Stressful. Stressful. I did crisis, man. So that was my first post grad job. First job out of grad school, 2 months after grad school. My local. I don't. Do you guys have like mental health agencies like that deal with the low
Yeah,
income population?
yeah. So we have like Cascadia, Morrison. Cascadia is really like they have a I forgot what their team is called, but they have a team of crisis therapists that
Okay.
they
Okay.
call, and then the therapist comes and they do the assessment. They try to get them into the hospital.
Yeah. So that's what I do. That's what I used to do. And over here, we have in Virginia, we have community services boards and behavioral health authorities. And so usually that's where your crisis workers are there who help put people in psychiatric hospitalization, psychiatric hospitals, whether voluntarily or involuntarily, um, along with your hospital crisis workers too that can put in people voluntarily. But when it comes to involuntary commitment, going against somebody's will, that's when us crisis workers from the CSBs or the behavioral health authorities come in. And so I had no idea about this outside of when I was working in psychiatric inpatient. I used to work with those crisis workers for people to get assessed on the units.
Okay.
And so when I got into it, it was a whole new world. It's a very stressful job, man. I was working rotating schedule. I'm talking about um, shoot, 8 to 5s on the weekdays, and then it switched after the 2 weeks, 10 to 7, and then you had to do every 7 weeks. You had to do an overnight, a whole week of overnights, and then you go back to 10 to 7.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got to pick up shifts. You know, you have to, it wasn't required you picked up shifts, but you could pick up shifts and get extra money.
Yeah.
And so my wife's a teacher. My schedule was just boom, 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 boom. And the assessments, man, it's like the assessments is pretty simple, but the work along the lines of working with the healthcare providers, like, so we would go into the EDs or the psychiatric inpatient hospitals on the medical floors, do assessments, trying to get people medically cleared, trying to get people into hospitals, you know what I'm saying, wait for police transportation, you know, and then at one point in time where we have all the police killings and police brutalities, now I'm working with police, black man, maybe treating a black individual, but I gotta tell their family that they go into a psychiatric hospital in handcuffs.
Yeah.
And then I felt as though too, I didn't get the best proper supervision. You know, I had to fight for my supervision hours. We talked about that. That's another episode we could talk about.
Yeah.
Fighting for the supervision hours, man. Didn't feel like I really got I got a lot of clinical and a lot of policy work behind that job, but I got also a lot of stress
Yeah.
and just fighting for myself. You know what I'm saying? Luckily, my coworkers, and I was the only guy there too for like most of the time.
Yeah.
But luckily, most of my teammates, my homegirls that I work with, we was just a great unit. So we all supported one another. But from a leadership aspect, from a supervision aspect, man, it was rough, man. So that I'll tell anybody, crisis, I think we should all do crisis work as an intern in grad school, just to get our feet wet to see if we really want to do this work. Yeah. Because I will tell you like this, by me doing it, ain't nothing I ain't seen at this point. Like, you can't bring me nothing that I ain't seen or dealt with at this point. And the topic of, like, you know, assessing for suicide and homicide, psychotic individuals, that's nothing for me. That's nothing.
That, you know, easily, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So you just get those raw clinical skills that a lot of us therapists sometimes don't get the chance to get.
Yeah.
You'll get it in crisis. And you get the policy side too, because the way we did our work was pretty much relegated by a situation that happened to a senator's son here in Virginia. So it had expanded all of the times, because you had a certain time if a person was under emergency custody order to get that person placed. So many different intricacies into that job, man. Yeah. It taught me a lot. Stressed me out a lot, taught me a lot.
Yeah. You know, I worked at a inpatient emergency room for about 3 weeks. Or you know, I mean, it was a big hospital, so like instead of me going to inpatient, you know, I went to a unit. You know, the unit was a little bit slower, a little bit, you know, but like you said, like everybody who was a therapist or what they call it a crisis intervention specialist in that inpatient, you know, like you know, in that ED has worked crisis work before, and they had their clinical stuff in the front of their head, like you know, they can look at somebody and say, "Oh, this is happening," and I'll be like, I don't know what's going on, but they can look like, "Oh, man, don't trip." You know, like I worked at Cascadia for 12 years, so like I know everything. I've seen it all. So I do know, like, if I wanted to get like super like real clinical knowledge, like just to have stuff on the forefront of my head, like I feel like that would be a good job to have, because everybody who I've met who worked there for more than 2 years is super sharp. Like they don't even need, you know, all they need is a few sentences. What's happening? Boom, that's happening. Like,
exactly, and that's how it became, man. It come like second nature. I was there for 3.5 years, bro. 3.5 years, and the only thing I would say is that you do get super clinical. You get the super policies, that you get to see all the diagnoses pretty much up front. The issue, though, when it comes to the test, crisis, working in crisis, you work backwards.
Yeah.
Versus what the textbook says. So when I was having trouble with the test, because I'm about to take it for the third time. I go in for a couple of years, I probably just got out of it because like my job right now is way more slow paced than crisis, right? Automatically, when I talk to people and assess people at this point as a crisis therapist, I'm always in crisis. Can I keep you at the hospital or not?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Automatically versus going through the actual steps, referring people, like assessing, building rapport, referral. Nah, I'm at crisis stage. Every time I step into that room, I'm at crisis stage, that crisis intervention stage, right then every single time.
Like we need
So it throws you off when you're going for like licensure because when the test, it just your mindset, how you approach the clinical aspect is just backwards from what the textbook is saying.
Yeah.
So that's the only issue I have with it right now.
Okay. Do you feel like the test is very matter of fact? Like I know somebody was telling me that like I had to kind of think like like a white social, like I mean, like not to sound like, like
Yeah,
that. Like, like there's no trauma informed care. There's no it's like they're having issues, you report it. You know what I'm saying? Like there's no finding out, there's no finding out backstories like
right.
the word.
And see, that's what we did in crisis too. We found out backstories we had before we even went. So yeah, I would say that the test right now to me is very matter of fact. And it's based in a perfect world scenario.
Yeah.
And working in crisis, working in inpatient,
Yeah.
none of that's perfect world. Like you're not gonna have a question on there like, okay, well, what happens when you have a code red on the unit, and this person is acting out and throwing chairs, So
Yeah.
that's nothing in the textbook. I've never seen anything in the textbook how to de-escalate a patient like that.
I feel
So
like I might have less social workers if they did that.
right, like not too many social workers even been on that level, been on the unit, been in the spaces we've been in. You know what I'm saying? So you have to retrain. You have to really think about it from a perfect world scenario. I've been trying to do that myself, and luckily, my job right now is gearing me up for that a little bit more because I work in a major health system, and so I'm not the main social worker either.
Yeah, so that's cool. Yeah,
Escalates, I do have to refer. So
yeah, that's cool. Hell yeah. So, well, I mean, hopefully, you get that. You know what I'm saying? You ain't the only one that's took it multiple times. You won't be the last one. So.
Right, and that's helpful. That's good to know.
But like I like your theory about like all interns should be like working crisis social work or crisis therapy or crisis whatever
you call it, yeah.
All your area. I feel the same way about all social workers should work in residential. Because residential kind of, I mean, it kind of keeps you on your toes. You know what I'm saying? Because like you can't like see a client for an hour and then like they go away. Like you see a client and then you kind of see them on the floor, hard in the unit, kind of acting up, and it's like it's like constantly, like, hey, didn't we talk about these skills? And they come and say, yeah, we did, and then they can all do it again. And it's kind of like they really like it really teaches you about like community, environment, trauma. It teaches you about like so many things that's so loaded, and
Right.
and you have like you have somebody's like you have a captive audience, so you can really figure out, like how to really maneuver, how to find out, like, what kind of how things work for you. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're a person who's like pretty like loud and like like cause I know a lot of people like social workers or like people who work in these fields are like in these buildings feel like to yell, and it's like like you might get the wrong person to yell at, and then you yell at someone and then they respond a different way. Then it's like, okay, well maybe I should yell at everyone.
Right.
Or, like they might take the soft approach on some, and then they manipulate you, and it's like, oh, maybe I shouldn't take the soft approach. So let me find my balance, and then kind of, like it's just a good way to hone your skills, I think,
Yeah. I think so too, man. I think so. It's just because you don't know, you really don't know until you get into it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's good to have a taste.
Yeah.
To expect. And that kind of gear you because that help with the burnout rates, and then that'll help with people leaving the field because some people have. I mean, I've had thoughts about leaving the field at times, sometimes, but it's just I'm just too passionate about it. But I think it's because I got that exposure up front,
Hmm.
now, and then that exposure helps with kind of crafting how I do social work now.
Yeah.
What I'm saying? Versus trial by error in the middle of it. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or never been exposed to it. So, and even with substance abuse, like I'm in substance abuse, full time, just focusing on substance abuse more, and that was my last stop to kind of
Hmm.
round everything out. So, no, I definitely agree. I definitely.
Yeah, I feel like you gotta see it tough up front, and then kind of know like it gets better. Like I
Yeah.
know a lot of social workers that's I know one. Actually, she's my old coworker. My friend. sh- She's on my podcast last season, and she had spent 20 some years in direct service, and now she got a job like as a consultant, and she's like, man, this is like the best, the
Yeah,
best
yeah.
ever. So I feel like you got to kind of like have it, just see things up front, and it kind of like, and I feel like you appreciate things more too. Like when you see it hard up front, and then when you go somewhere else, and like it's slow, you just appreciate it more. Like, oh, this ain't nothing. Like, yeah, there might be days where you hate it, but it's like, oh, I remember a couple years ago when I was fighting and
Yeah,
fight
yeah.
these different systems to try to get just get a some simple services provided. Those kind of things really
Mhm.
and that's what I'm looking for right now because I'm still in direct service
Mhm.
and I'm running into a thing where like the clients don't bother me. Like that's not really a problem, but like I work in a correctional facility. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like there's just no room for a social worker. Like
Mm.
now, you don't have to be a social worker to be a therapist there, So a lot of therapists are pretty, but for me, like I really feel like I really take social work seriously.
Right.
But like I feel like, like other than my job title, which is a QMHP, like I am a social worker, you know what I'm saying? Like, what I'm
Right.
saying? Like I can come to work and just do the therapy part and just, say, oh, I'm just doing therapy, but it's like I want to, like a lot of my practices might not be conventional. They might not be looked at as like structured.
Mhm.
Just to
Mhm.
keep it real, you know what I'm saying? Now, I do have a lot of people, like a lot of higher ups who appreciate the work I do. There's a lot of people who don't really understand, like, they really don't see the progress that these kids make or, because it just don't look like it's as structured as it should be.
Right. Don't look traditional. No.
Yeah. So I'm in a point where I'm like, okay, do I really want to keep fighting this fight or do I want to like, I gotta do something else, still social work, but like just not in, like in an environment where like at least where the language is the same.
Exactly. Exactly.
Because
And so that's kind of tough because some of that you're gonna have to create yourself.
yeah, that's real. And that's what I talked to there was a manager at my job. He's not my manager. He used to be my manager, but he's the other like, dorms managers. He's a therapist. Actually a doctor, and we kind of have the same career trajectory. He like started out as on line staff, and then went and got educated, all that stuff. And he kind of told me that too. He was like, like if you like this agency a lot, like nobody said you can't create your own job. And I was like, damn, you know,
That's true.
you know what I'm saying? Like if you see something that's lacking, so I just been talking to different people, getting different game. You know what I'm saying? I know I'm gonna take some game from this conversation. Every time I interview somebody and they give me something that's like cool, I just put it in my toolbox. I
Mhm.
don't know if people know I'm doing that, but if you see me and I got something that sounds similar,
Right.
thank you, bro.
I'm with it, man. I mean, because we gotta stick together, man. Especially as black men and social workers in this field, man. And so we're in a dominated field by white women, and then black women are definitely taking the cake as far as like from the mental health professional standpoint, but it's not a lot of us. And so I mean, you know, traditional approaches don't work, and we understand it. And so I think I'm in the same space. I've always wanted to do policy.
Yeah.
Like I have my concentration is social policy and welfare.
Hmm.
And so although I'm getting it because I'm getting it from the health system side, I've got it from the crisis side. I still like I just want to work at the federal or state level, helping create policies around mental health.
Yeah.
Then I want to do my therapy thing, and then I want to do creative stuff like Goodfellas Project, where I can just do whatever I want to do it. You know what I'm saying? And then also the sneakerhead stuff, like that's the creating creative stuff that appeals to us while still helping people heal.
Yeah.
And so sometimes that's not a job for that. You got to create it.
Yeah.
And Goodfellas, my last meeting confirmed that for me, because I was not even supposed to do a lot of facilitation. It was kind of like a free session where we just kind of talked about whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And just went into a session where it got deep, and I started facilitating again. And I was like, I'm not supposed to facilitate until the main topic this Saturday.
Yeah.
But it confirmed a lot of different things for me, that, the approaches that we utilize, or that's traditional, doesn't necessarily mean or equate is going to work.
Yeah.
And who's to say, especially now with this pandemic, who's to say what we using isn't right? As long as it's ethical, you feel what I'm saying? We're meeting the people where they're at this point. That's all you can do.
That's all we can do, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, that's really, I mean, yeah, I feel like this pandemic is gonna have a lot of like hardships, but if done correctly, like it can have a lot of like, good things come out of it, like, switching how social work is delivered, being a little more lax on certain things, not being so, tied to stupid, kind of just
Right.
the technicalities, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's what I think anyway. So talk about big, advocate for Black men and mental health, So I know on this podcast I usually get into like, like race and trauma, you know what I'm saying? Like, so how do you think those two are connected? What's your thoughts on that?
I think they're connected. There's like almost like a night and day, not night and day, but like a Mike and Scotty type, connection, man.
Yeah.
It's to be Black in America, man, is traumatic. It's just traumatic, man, and to go through the centuries of trauma that we've had over the years and the decades, man, and holding that stuff in, and the manifesting in different ways, man, and still kind of being eerily similar to older days, situations with police brutalities and red line and just racism going on right now with everything happening. It's just there's no reason and no doubt in my mind that these two things are not working together and just have taken its toll on us. Now, granted that we're a resilient people, we're very resilient, and we're very creative, and we find ways to kind of to build ourselves up and get past it. But walking outside every day as a Black man or a Black woman, it is hard. Versus somebody that's white or of another descent. I'm not taking away from anybody that's people of color. I'm looking to talk about Black folks in general. It's rough. And so our mental, I believe, and I talk about it in my book about how I believe the generational trauma that we've had since slavery has been passed down through generation to generation to generation.
Yeah.
And it comes in the form of how we cope, our thought patterns, and then also that ability of how we don't want to disclose what's really going on, for fear of being weak, for fear of being soft or labeled as something, or the age-old thing where you don't tell our business outside this house.
Yeah.
As a result of that generational trauma and stress that we've had, I think that has manifested into the physical ailments that plague our community, whether it be high blood pressure, stress, heart disease, cancer, stroke, diabetes, all these different things. I think stress and the generational trauma over the past centuries has plagued us as a result of that. That has been the byproduct of generational trauma.
Yeah.
Versus, or for example, why is it that I get anxiety when I see blue lights behind me, even though I've worked with these guys on a daily basis?
Yeah.
Saying I probably know the cop that pulled me over, but the blue lights give me anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the same for any other culture or race? I don't think so.
Yeah.
So definitely.
I can feel that. And even like, just it's just different, you know what I'm saying? Like, especially like, I feel like work makes me anxious because I feel like all the Black youth on my unit are my responsibility.
Yeah.
And even though they're not, I know they're not, you know what I'm saying? But I feel like that's like a perception. It's like, like when I'm talking to them too long, or when they're out there wilding out, and somebody looks at me like, "Hey, kid,
Yeah.
you know, you know, it's like, damn, since like those kind of because I feel like my success is tied to their behavior, which isn't fair. But
Right.
that's kind of like when you black and you in this field,
Mm-hmm.
that's like on the other side of like kind of like professional trauma. It's like
Yeah.
like you work so hard to get to a place to get your degree, and you want to be respected, but you still like the person like, hey, I need you to like kind of bring like reel these guys in a little bit.
Yeah.
Have you ever experienced that?
Hmm?
Have you ever experienced that? You know what I'm saying? Like, like, hey, seen a black guy over there to kind of, have this conversation. So, like it might go a little better.
I've two things. I've warranted that. I've actually asked for that,
Mm-hmm.
and then because I knew I worked for like a lot of white girls,
Mm-hmm.
I had some black women on that too. But the other end of that is too the safety piece of it.
Mm-hmm.
I get that one more, where I don't care who wilding out, we gonna send the big black guy out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so that's a really big byproduct we don't talk about a lot. That piece of it where the safety kind of fetishizes the fetish of the big black male
Mm-hmm.
aspect. I'm gonna tell you right now, I just got big, so I really
Yeah.
was like above 80 back in the day, in the psychiatric inpatient days, but I was still tall, so like I was still on that team. But that I get that piece of it. So yeah,
Okay.
I understand. I definitely.
And it's not a problem, but it's like, like I feel like if you're gonna praise me for their good, you're gonna chastise me for their bad. So I'm
Yeah.
kind of like, I just don't want to deal with that. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah. And then it goes back to the point you saying where like, what I'm saying, their behaviors, they don't see the progress. But
mhm.
knowing that because you're competent and culturally competent around that, you just know that the fact that they just huffed and puffed and maybe said a couple cuss words but walked away versus going off and still on somebody,
Yeah.
that's progress.
That's
you
what
know.
I tell a lot of people. It's like, progress looks different for everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
he might have still cut you out, but it's like, 10 months ago, he was cussing you out. He was throwing shit. He was breaking windows. He had to pull him out on a safety blanket. Now,
Yeah.
now he's just cussing,
Right. That's progress. Like, that
100%.
works.
So, so like, I know there's like this stigma of like mental health in our community, and you touched on it. You touched on it, with your last response. You know what I'm saying? But how, do you think it's going like now? You know what I'm saying? Because I see a lot of educated people like preaching mental health, and a lot of educated people receiving mental health.
Hmm.
Like, like you get into them weeds. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
you think, you know what I'm saying, like somebody who's living in poverty is like, really being receptive to like, okay, yeah, like therapy, okay, like I got time for that. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right. Yeah, man. It's better. It's gotten better. It's gotten better. I think people are more aware of it now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're doing a great job at pushing it and making it in the forefront and just trying to um, become a better people as a result of it for generations to come. And so it'll take some time. I think maybe like around our kids time when they grow up, maybe they're their kids. It might be a good place, like a solid place where I think where we may have made the best strides.
Yeah.
Um, However, people still don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Still don't know, man. At all levels,
Yeah.
um, at all levels, income or whatever it does. It's still, man. It's my beef has become all right. And we gotta take care of my mental health, man. We gotta take care of my mental health, man, and turn around and do something that, or don't do something that goes against their mental health.
Yeah.
And turn around and do a behavior that makes no sense in regards to saying what you practice, what you preach. You just said something totally opposite of that. You feel what I'm saying? And so when I say so now you have to get to the point of weeding out everybody that's talking about mental health as a trendy topic and a buzzworthy topic to Nah, let's have that deep conversation and get to the nitty gritty. We haven't got to that point yet.
Okay.
That's my opinion. That's what I've been seeing. The mental health thing is trendy and buzzworthy. It's good. It's bringing awareness. We're getting to the education piece of it. We're understanding it. But we talk about getting to that real deep, vulnerable type topic. We there, but we're not there yet.
Yeah. Okay.
And
I
and
understand that.
yeah, and I see that even when I do speaking engagements. I've done speaking engagements and facilitated classes and stuff like that. When I bring out the stuff, the PowerPoint presentation is way more than what they expected
Mm-hmm.
on all fronts. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought we was gonna talk about mental health, little stress and anxiety. I can do that, but let's talk about the real reason why you sitting here, and stressed out. You know what I'm saying? Let's just talk about not just. This is not just talk about it. That we got to take care of our mental health. I'm taking my self-care days now. What's really going on?
Yeah.
What's really driving the mental health, issues? And so that right there, of course, is people don't want to be vulnerable. You know what I'm saying? So I get it, but it's still a lot of work to be done in that deep stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, what do you think? How do you think we can get there?
People being more authentic and real with one another.
Okay.
People being just more vulnerable, which is asking a lot, right? It's asking a lot to be more vulnerable. Nobody wants to be vulnerable, but if you really want to make a change and make a difference in your life, you're going to have to get uncomfortable in order to do so.
Yeah, for sure.
And what that looks like is hard work and actually putting in the work and effort to do it. If you don't want to do it, you want to talk about surface level topic. That's what it is. Surface level. We're still surface level mental health at this point. I think.
Yeah.
And as far as getting to that next level, it just takes the vulnerability aspect. How do we get to the next people? And then people not marketing and profiting off of the surface level topics, because then it dilutes the message from people like us who actually want to get to the root cause of stuff.
Yeah.
Help people. So you have to weed that out. You got to explain that. You feel what I'm saying? So.
I thought about that. I was thinking about that. And I was doing private practice, well, kind of quasi private practice. I was working with a contractor last summer, 2019 summer, and like I know like a lot of our celebrity people's preach mental health and going to therapy and things like that. But like I was thinking like, what if my mental health is caused by like my environment? Like who do we talk to about? You know what I'm saying? Like I'm on Social Security. Rent is $1,500 a month. I only get $900 a month. I can't work because they take my Social Security away. So I'm stressed out because of that. Mindfulness ain't gonna help that.
No.
So when do we like you said so there's two parts to like what you said. There's a part like we talk about we don't want to talk about what's really causing this stress. And there's another part like so we're gonna hope like saying our systems accountable for causing like for causing all these problems. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
I mean, that's what I feel. It's like Charlamagne the guy. You know what I'm saying? Like he can go on TV. He talk about he go to therapy. We saw go to therapy. That's cool. I love that. Because we should. But at the same time, somebody got to start speaking about like the rent, the just kind of living is causing. You know what I'm saying? It's causing us to. You know what I'm saying? It's causing us to be stressed out. And I can't. There's no exercise I can do to help you with your financial problems.
Yeah. Bruh, yeah, same thing. I spoke about that one time. I just reshared a video to my page about that. I can do all the therapy techniques I want to in the world, CBT techniques, mindfulness techniques to you, X, Y, and Z. But if you leave this office today and your rent still due, I can't help you with that. You feel what I'm saying? And so, and I really find it hard too. Like, and I found myself doing it too, but I kind of scaled back. Like, okay, you need to go to therapy. And not having a conversation about how the highs and lows of therapy. I'm in therapy now, for the first time ever. And so I realized like therapy is tough. It's hard. Especially a good therapist, he's gonna challenge you. You feel what I'm saying? You can come out that thing empty, you're gonna leave empty if a good therapist. And so the challenges of actually seeking a therapist, or maybe not even liking that therapist, and then you gotta leave and find another one, and then finding somebody that works for you, and just getting back to the other piece where you're talking about with the financial piece, like, yeah, that's why I want to get into the policy side, because what's happening right now, and I've always seen it, I've always confirmed it, and always confirmed why I wanted to go into policy. But in substance abuse, I'm really seeing it now. The housing situation is horrible.
Yeah.
Maslow's hierarchy of needs, safety first in a shelter. If they don't have consistent safety and shelter, then they're in fight or flight every single day. That's going to cause an increase in relapse.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're doing harm reduction model where we're allowing, something, they use, but we're still treating them and not kicking them out the program. I don't have housing. I don't have adequate, spaces to live and eat. You know what I'm saying? I'm on, Section 8. I'm on SSI, whatever. I can't get my check. I only got this much amount. That is stressful, like to a T. But then if you think about it from the regular aspect of us just having to be in a career professional, families, doing X, Y, Z, it is stressful to be an adult. So you could see why somebody would not lose their mind, but just be stressed out to the max where it causes these issues. Because just being an adult is stressful. Like before we got on the call, I got mixed up.
Yeah.
I thought we were doing later, but before that, I had 3 phone calls before you.
Yeah.
3 phone calls before you for 3 separate things after doing stuff at my church.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's a lot. We
Yeah.
make it look easy. We make it look easy. And so I think from an environmental standpoint and from a macro standpoint, and this is why when I do my workshops and do my actual speaking engagements, I talk about the stressors that we go through on a daily basis that affects our mental health, because there is a misconception that stress that we have is normal, right? Because we do this on a daily basis. Our parents did this. This is what society has told us to do. Oh, you going through it, man. You gotta go through it to get to the other side.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I struggle a little bit just to get here. Look, man, if you can avoid the struggle, you can avoid the struggle. You feel what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But because we've normalized stress so much, we don't even equate that stress to mental health. So the stresses that we have, we don't consider that a part of my mental health.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I say we still got places to go as far as depth, as far as how to address these things. And so if the greater society hasn't really understood the difference on how stress affects our mental health, then you best believe African Americans, we haven't either, because you know how we treated here.
Yeah. That's real.
Yeah.
If they ain't did it, and we damn sure we ain't there yet,
Exactly. So
you mentioned your project, the Goodfellas project.
mm-hmm.
I know you got a podcast. Is it the same title? Is it like the Goodfellas podcast, or something else?
No, the podcast is it's called A Podcast by Trey.
Okay, I know I've seen that. Okay.
Yeah.
So why don't you go ahead and tell me a little about the Goodfellas project? That I seen that. I was like, okay, this is a clean look. I like that.
Thank you. Yeah, man, the Goodfellas project, man, is it's a safe space for Black men on how to vent and heal.
Yeah.
And we have conversations around life, stress, mental health, whatever it may be. And this project I created, man, it's a 5-year project that I wrote out that I wanted to do for 5 years. I didn't act on it. And I created it last fall after I failed the licensure exam the first time.
Okay.
I just had to tell myself I was still a good social worker. I could do this social work thing. I just had to figure out, what it was. And so I did the launch in November, had a great turnout, had about 25 guys come out, good space. I had already had the PowerPoint stuff set up because I've been doing facilitation workshops before that. And it was a good time, man. And so, as a result of that came the monthly meetings. Yeah. And so the monthly meetings, man, I get a couple of my guys. Most of these guys I do know, but we get in, a couple of new people here and there.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to just set it up like a very, very open kind of loose support group.
Yeah.
Uh, that's pretty much what it is. Although it has some clinical, parts to it, but it's not really clinical. It's
Yeah.
really just real talk with Black men about life issues, stress, mental health. I incorporate a lot of mindfulness practices into that,
Hmm.
into the sessions. We do prayer and stuff like that. And we just do that, and I have a topic, and we just go through it, and we have that space. And so we met in person maybe twice, and
Yeah.
then COVID hit, and then just been doing everything via Zoom, um to kind of help cope with people. And we still been getting a nice little following, like 10 13 people, 10 13 guys is getting together. And I just decided this month to do twice, even though I'm trying not to do the Zoom fatigue thing, but I did it twice because I just felt as though the conversations just go.
Yeah.
They just go, man. Once the guys get comfortable and they feel like they're in a safe space where they can just get stuff off their chest and won't be judged. It just goes, man. It
Yeah.
just goes. you know, um, and it's the beauty in it, man. I've had one of my homeboys tell me, he was like, bro, man, this joint has helped me so much. Um, just help me open up more to people because I don't open up. Simple stuff like that, man. And just not it's not I don't try to use traditional. I mean, I use components, but it's not traditional. You don't have to dress down. You just come. I don't even have a sign up sheet, bro. Like, you just, I had the rules and regulations out there for it at the first meeting. I did like a little survey because I wanted to make a nonprofit out of it. But I don't even have a sign up sheet. It's not even a closed group. It's open, and because I know guys are just gonna come and go.
Hmm.
You know, so I just really took the gloves off with this group, and it's been pretty good, man. I've been enjoying it. I enjoy it. I learn a lot from the guys myself, and it's an age range 18. Everybody wants me to do teenagers, and I've been shying away from teenagers because I don't have no problem working with teenagers. I love working with teenagers, especially older teenagers or the middle school. I used to coach basketball. I used to coach them. But like I tell people with teenagers, I can teach teenagers all I want to, but the adults, our age, older adults, y'all need these facts and this information just as much as them,
Hmm.
because there's some things and behaviors and thought patterns that you have that you don't even know that you're influencing those teenagers with. So I've tried to focus my brand and my projects to the adults more at this point because for some reason we think as though we don't have no things that we need to work on. So so you see a Black man and working in the community and doing what they do, you just automatically want to put them with a teenager, and rightfully so. That's cool. I don't mind that. But what about the adults?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so
Absolutely.
Goodfellas ranges from like ages 18 all the way up to like 50 something years old, man.
Yeah.
You know,
And I
and
know in my area, there's not a lot of things like that for adults. You just get a lot of services, at least in Oregon. In Oregon, especially if like you in the system, what I'm saying, they got services, not a lot, but they got more services for than if you were an adult.
right, right,
So, so like I can see, what I'm saying, like, because like I feel like, like kind of switching gears to like, like, well, maybe like adults, because like I've worked with youth my whole career, but it's like, but like the more and more I see it, like, especially like the middle age from like 18 to 25.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Like there ain't really a lot for our youth out there. It's like, like there's a lot of youth that that in my correctional facility that are lodged there because there's nowhere else for them to go because there's not a lot of services.
right,
Like once you get 18, it's like, well, you're not really, you kind of it's time. It's really like I got nothing for you, especially if you've been, like if you're lucky enough to make it to the age of 25, because there's some places that keep to 25. At
right.
25, it's really cut off. It's like, boom, you got to go out on the street. So that's
Mhm.
that's a good switch up.
Yeah, I just think, man, and I just think I've been doing the community stuff for a couple of years, a little more years, and it just, you automatically get thrown to just the teenagers and then the kids and the youth. And like I said, that's fine. There are people, like you said, you've been doing it for, 10 plus years. That's fine. I work with youth, kids. I've done, community events, and partner with different people. And it's like, but my always biggest gripe, and it was when I was an inpatient, the kids would come in, they an inpatient. They done act out, they having depression or whatever, they suicidal or whatever. Then you meet the parents on the unit, and you like, well, shoot. I mean, I understand why the kid acting out, doing what he doing. The parents is X, Y, and Z. So that always drove me, and I was like, you know what, and that almost like to the point now where I don't even take many youth events or take any youth engagements that much, because I have community partners now that work specifically with youth, and so I'll send them. I'll go to that because it's just like, I want to work with adults. I want to help adults. I want to help adults know how to manage their youth. You know what I'm saying? Because there's no point in the teenager going through the therapy sessions or these sessions, learning new coping skills, and yet you, mom, you, dad, still utilizing thought patterns or hung up on stuff that happened in your childhood, your early 20s.
Yeah.
And then
That's a good point.
Yeah, it's spilling out to your relationship with your child. You know what I'm saying? So that's the thing, man. That's been my thing about it. I have nothing against working with kids. I love kids and teenagers, but I just 18 to 25. You said it. That is that's a great age range.
Yeah,
great age range. They're more impressionable. They want to learn more, versus and not to say nobody older doesn't want to learn more, but they're 18 to 25. You're still impressionable. Even up to 35.
Trying to find yourself, you know what I'm saying? Like you're really trying to find,
Yeah.
There's a lot of things career wise, where you want to live, how you want to live, if you was living right before, if you want to switch it up. Yeah, it's a lot of things going on between that age range,
Yeah. So what about them?
Yeah, that's real.
Gotta work with them. So and that's the majority of that's in there right now in that Goodfellas group. Like I said, I got a couple older guys in there that are they're there too, but that's the majority is like that kind of that I'll say 25 to 35 right now.
Okay. What about the podcast? Podcast by Trey. I've seen a few episodes you posted.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, man, I'm trying to figure out. Matter of fact, you were the ones that inspired me to do that podcast individually.
Yeah.
Let me just give you flowers now on that, because yeah, I seen the way you ran your podcast. I seen what you were doing, and I was very impressed by the simplicity of it all. Like, because I'm a person, like, I'm almost a little bit perfectionist, and so I want every single thing to sound like, have this going on, every single thing be in place before I do it. And you're like, look, we just going to pull the mic up, put the phone up, and have this conversation. I was like, all right, dang, that's legit. Like, you know what I'm saying? Let's simplify it. And I had a podcast before this with my cousin, my homeboy, my wife. It was a Backwoods podcast, and we did like millennial content, social issues, sports, and then I'll throw mental health and then whatever. And that kind of dissolved because everybody got kind of caught up and busy, and just wasn't able to. We had moved, didn't have the space to kind of have everybody on it. And so I got to the podcast by Trey, and I was like, I'm gonna go ahead and launch this thing by myself. And I was like, oh, it's gonna be a social work podcast. It's gonna be a mental health podcast. So right, well, I'm gonna just make just a regular podcast with me just talking about whatever. So it's a hybrid podcast, man, between social work, mental health, and personal stuff, man. I wanted to be kind of up there in the tiers with you, along with the social work podcast realm.
Yeah.
And I was like, this pandemic has sent me to a place of introspection and trying to figure out, do I really want to be labeled as just a therapist, or just a social worker?
Yeah.
Because so many other things make me who I am. And I was like, all right, so maybe, didn't want to call it another mental health podcast at one point. So right now, man, it's just me talking about social work issues, mental health issues, or any type of personal reflection that's going on in my life, tips and strategies on how to manage your mental health, just in one. That's it. And I need to get back to recording. I ain't putting a new episode up in like weeks. So
we like that's a kind of good way to like make sure like like your content is gonna be fresh. Like if you could just do some stuff that's cause like if you don't feel like you do good like in a pigeonhole space, like it's like well don't pigeonhole yourself into doing stuff like that. But like my podcast by Trey, Trey is a whole lot of things. So I can make my podcast a whole lot of things, And the reason why I make my podcast journey like so like raw, because I spent a lot of years in a perfectionist space, and it didn't and it wasn't helpful for me because it caused me not to do a lot of things. Yeah. So when I decided to start doing podcasts, I actually had a podcast before this one too, but with Hip Hop Social Work, started kind of taking over my life because I got so much recognition. So I kind of had to like had to cut ties with that one. Yeah. But just like I wanted people to know that like kind of messing up is fine. You know what I'm saying? Like I'll share my vulnerability with whoever listens, just because like just messing up is totally fine, and we're gonna learn this together. We're gonna you're gonna hear from my first episodes where I had them damn what's the mics called? I forgot what the mic is called. Those condenser mics, and you can pick up everything in the room. To research, I've tried to figure out what sounded better, what can my voice better, and now they sound a little bit better. And then even if I have an episode where like there was technical difficulties, I still post it if I can. You know what I'm saying? Like there's some that's like okay, an hour of just this is not cool, but like if it's like 10 minutes where I have something messed up, I even put a disclaimer out. Hey, this happened, boom, but we're gonna move on, because it's important to me, because just life is just about those picking it up and rolling with it.
Yeah.
And that's so I share that with I just share it with everybody. You know what I'm saying? I don't I don't care if I remember one podcast that reviewed my podcast. They said it was great, but they talked about like how bad my audio was. But I was like, that's cool though, because they understood. You know what I'm saying? Like like they understood why I did it, who I was doing it for. You know what I'm saying? And just that I didn't care. I had to say what I had to say.
Right. And I think that's admirable because, like I said, you helped me with that myself. Because recording a podcast by yourself is hard anyway, right? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You really gotta be on your P's and Q's with it. But listening to podcast, I edit all my podcasts too. I think you edit your podcast though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I edit my podcast. So you pick up on stuff when you edit. You feel what I'm saying now? So I hear stuff that I would never hear years ago because now I edit podcasts and stuff. And so I was like, man, all right, man. So like he doesn't, I've listened to a couple of episodes, like he doesn't care about his sound quality. Yet I'm over here sitting here worried about the white noise in the back that probably for the most people don't even hear the white noise in their speakers. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I appreciated that rawness because that allowed me the space to say, all right, well, we're gonna put something out and just by yourself and whatever it is what it is. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man, I appreciate you, brother, for doing that, man.
Sure. Also, I was listening to like podcasts by like big time people. I ain't gonna say the name, but and some of their episodes sounded a little, I was like, hey, if he getting this off, I'm right above that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, I would pick up on stuff on like the Joe Budden podcast where like they had some technical difficulties. And I was like, if Joe Budden and them had technical issues.
Yeah. Like, yeah. And they got thousands of dollars of sound equipment, you know what I'm saying? And they got an engineer.
Yeah, they got an engineer. I was like, if I could hear the little buzzing or dizzing going off with the mics in that joint, oh, okay, all right, man. Let me stop.
Yeah, we good. So, the way I end podcasts usually talk about people's self-care, you know what I'm saying? I know, I don't know if this is part of self-care, but I know you, man, you and your kicks, you know what I'm saying? Just like me, I ain't bought no kicks in a while just because I just, the game is hard nowadays. I think the last pair I bought for real was, well, I bought a few pairs that I sold, but the last pair that I bought that I kept for a while was the Concord 11s. But then I wore them finally, and then it hurt my feet, so I just sold them. I sold them. I can't, it hurt because those are like the grails. I was like, oh, these are the ones. Because I was a kid growing up broke. I was like, I need these, but You know, so but anyway, so how did you get into the kicks, and what I'm saying, how do you like how does that pertain to your mental health and your self care and things like that?
Um, man, you know what, man? The Sneakerhead Chronicles, like, you grow up being a sneakerhead. If you really legit until you grow up just following Mike, what I'm saying, getting your favorite players, man, just going into the kicks. And so I've always loved kicks. I've always loved kicks. Um, always loved cars. And
Hmm.
I've been into both for years, ever since I was, had my own money or didn't have my own money, was getting into it.
Yeah,
When I got into the field of mental health, those things took a step back.
yeah,
Because now I'm Trey, the social worker, or Trey, the mental health professional. But what makes me that Trey is sneakers and cars and basketball and stuff like that.
hmm,
And so working in crisis, man. So while I was in the psych and inpatient, I was still hooping. I was still in the cars. I had a little car business,
yeah,
and still in the kicks heavy or whatever. Got married. Life changes when you get married. Life changes when you get, when you start having, you have a child the next year after, working in crisis. And so all that slowed down. Kicks, the sneakers, the hooping, it just slowed down. And like I was telling my therapist, I think looking back, those life transitions kind of, made me, go a different way, and kind of definitely changed. It was kind of hard to juggle that transition of a period or whatever. And so then you get, go through that motion, you get a little more stabilized or whatever. And so I started finally getting back into the cars and stuff like that. And then got back into the kicks again.
hmm,
And really got heavy back into the kicks again once I started, getting my money flow right.
yeah,
And those things like are self-expression for me, but also something I can do to maintain my sanity and stay just reward myself. You feel what I'm saying? For doing all this hard work that we do. It's a rewarding system for me. It's also, if from a car aspect or from a basketball aspect, it's a mindfulness activity for me because I get to focus on one thing and not wear so many hats.
yeah,
Um, because I wear, you wear so many hats. Your husband, you're a father, you're a community person, you're a mental professional. I'm in my church heavy. It's just so many things. So I did the Sneakerhead Chronicles this year with my with my homeboy, a photographer, and the reason why I started that is one was because self care. Um, self care. I was doing so much, man, just trying to maintain my mind during this pandemic because I've been working from home and doing stuff, and I created a routine, but I wanted something new and something I wanted to create because if I couldn't, because my thing is, if I don't create, I start feeling down on myself. I
yeah,
start feeling sad. I don't know if anybody else is like that, but I've realized about myself the last couple of years, if I'm not creating or working with my hands or touching something or just building,
hmm,
I get down on myself. I start to go into a depressive state. Um, my homeboy, and what you'll see if you follow in the chronicles on my IG posts, you'll see these last three ones that I do is going to be talk about the reason why we did it, because my photographer, he suffers with anxiety and some depression,
yeah,
and so photography wise, he wanted to do something that would get him at least out the house just a little bit to create and do stuff during this pandemic. I was tired of posting mental health posts. I was just tired. I was tired of posting mental health posts. I went to a creative spurt where I was doing stuff mental health wise, post wise, but then it was so many of us putting mental health posts out there that my stuff was just getting lost at this point. And I was like, okay, well, I know I have mad colleagues right now killing the online game. If somebody needs something, I can send somebody somewhere.
yeah,
You know, I don't have to be that person that's putting out content, even though people don't want to hear from me. But whatever. And so we did the Sneakerhead Chronicles, one, to stop from us being bored, to have some creativity, to put something out there that's different, and create this kind of camaraderie like we did in the Goodfellas Project. Because the first Goodfellas Project, Chris, if you talk about a sneaker con, it was that.
yeah,
It It was that. My man's came in there. He was Supreme down, Nike Sakai's. I had my homeboy. He had Travis Scott ones on. My man, my guys came out with the freshest kicks, and it's continued every time we do the Goodfellas in person.
Yeah.
So when I do the Goodfellas person, you see number bread fours all over the place. I think one meeting we had 3 guys in the joint with bread fours on.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I was like, what is happening? So I realized we all kicks, even though some people may stigmatize it as, oh, y'all spending money on these luxury items, paying Nike all this money, you ain't investing, da-da-da-da. Kicks for us is self-expression. Kicks for us is something that is a rewarding system for us, and it creates a community and a dialogue. And what it also does, takes our mind off of the stuff that's going on right now, like The Last Dance did.
Yeah.
So that's why I did it. The whole component about it, and it's a lot of stuff, man. You can see the DMs. That's enough story. But people think it's about sharing their collection when it's really about just self-expression and maintaining our sanity during this time period. Just focus on something different. Let's have a conversation about why you like these 11s. Let's have a conversation about, where Mike wore these 11s in this finals, why he didn't wear these. You know what I'm saying? Let's have a conversation. Something that takes our mind off of the regular news, the deaths, COVID, 45, all that, and that's why I did it, man. And it's helped me a lot. It's helped me a lot from a self-care aspect, because I can create and post and just admire these things that I admire, and just have conversations with people around it that doesn't involve mental health, that doesn't involve COVID-19, but just has a conversation about stuff that we like. And that takes my mind, because again, I'm 24/7 social worker.
Yeah.
Takes my mind off of the hustle and bustle.
Yeah. That's good, man. Like I wish, I'm saying, like I wish my collection was a little bit, like it was fat for a little bit, but I started, like once I started like making money off shoes, it became easier just to sell them. You know what I'm saying? So like I probably so like I don't really have I don't have a lot right now, maybe like 70, something like that. But my grills are like, like I own a few pair of the grills that I, like, because when I was a kid, I wasn't a sneakerhead. I was too broke for that. You know what I'm saying? I grew up in public housing. You know what I'm saying? We was broke. There was no way. But when I started getting some money, I made it a point to start getting kicks. Like every time I made my own money, I've always had a lot of kicks. But it wasn't until my wife got her job at Nike, then I started getting quality kicks. You know what I'm saying? Like, so like it wasn't like about like quantity. It was like, okay, like instead of having like these off-wall color ones, and I got like I got like champagne cigar 7s. I got I got these bronze. I got Christmas bronze. I got I got stuff that So but now I'm cool. I do collect toys too, like I'm getting back into that.
You do the Funko Pops, stuff like that?
Not Funko Pops. Those are too much for me. But like Kid Robot. I like Kid Robot. You know what I'm saying? I collect action figures. Like, let me see if I got one I can grab real quick. Like this Ninja Turtles one right here.
Okay. Yeah. I got you.
I got a few wrestlers. But I'm collecting those because one day I'm gonna get up the courage, and I'm gonna start building dioramas. I don't want to open them, but I really want to build dioramas so I can take pictures of them. You know what I'm saying? Because I want to do that.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm getting back into that.
Okay. Yeah, I can respect that, bro. Because I was asking Funko Pops. I got my homeboys. They do the Funko Pops and then some of the figurines or whatever. They be flipping them junks or whatever. So
yeah, you can do that. You definitely can. But I never got into those. I did get into Kid Robot, like toys like this, like Kid Robot, like so you buy like the little blind box, and you don't ever come in the box is what you get. So
yeah,
I was into that. I spent thousands of dollars on those. You know what I'm saying? So
right, that's dope. Yeah, I think my second vice is the cars, and so like that's going to be that's gonna be my next back into the next thing. Actually, the whole sneakerhead project is part of this bigger thing that I'm trying to do, and
Okay.
so I can't give it away and tell everybody, but it's really part of something way bigger than what I'm trying to do in this area.
Yeah.
And just sharing that love, man. So we all got it, man. If you being a social worker, man, 24/7, you got to have an outlet somewhere,
Gotta
man.
have something.
You got to have something, man,
You
because
know,
if not,
I'll
you
be
go.
drinking all damn day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, not to say I don't drink a little bit, but you know, if you don't have an outlet, it gets unhealthy. So
That's right.
you
And
know,
I used to talk to my colleagues about, they would just, most of them would travel. They did a lot of traveling, but they didn't have no hobbies outside of work. And I was like, there's no way you're working in crisis and don't have anything hobbies outside of work, dude. I wasn't giving up my weekends to come into work to make some extra money when I could be at home and we can go to the mall or go work on my car. Nah, I'm not giving that up, bro. So
yeah, I can feel that.
balance.
You gotta have a balance, man.
Yeah.
So where can the people find you at, brother?
Man, you can find me a couple places, man. I'm on Instagram, retro underscore GT. The same place for Twitter is retro underscore GT. Website is www.uphold318.com. And I has a Instagram page. I think I just restored it. Uphold31. What is the thing at the end? The little space. I can't remember the Instagram one, but it's on Facebook and Instagram, man. So those are the 3 places you can contact me at, man. And follow me on those places. You see all the content I got going on and what's going on Uphold, what's going on my personal brand. And hey, that's it.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you for joining me, telling people about your career, your hobbies, and your philosophies and things like that. Hopefully, somebody heard something and was inspired to do something. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to inspire. All the time.
Yes, sir, man. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate your platform, everything you're doing, man. I'm glad we finally got to link up. We got to do some more episodes, man, because some more topics we got to get to.
Oh, man, man, I always need content. We always need content. So yeah, just always hit me up, and I'm game.
Got you, for sure.
All right, brother.
Well, yeah, man, you take care, man.
Yes, sir. Peace.
All right.